Good morning, everyone. Yesterday we read the scene first of the act first of tragedy Macbeth. Now we are going to start scene second of act first. Dear students, here we see that there is a change in the setting of the scene. The earlier scene was a desert place where the witches were talking and they said that fair is foul and foul is fair. That was the exposition scene. And now scene shifted to a camp which is near a forest, and the characters which are there in that camp are King Duncan, Malcolm his son, Donalville, it is also his son, Lennox, and some attendants. Attendants are there, and a bleeding sergeant enters there. So, when the sergeant enter, looking the sergeant is an army officer who work in the king's army. He enters there. King Duncan speaks or asks, "What bloody man is that? He can report as something by his flight of revolt the newest state." The King Duncan asks, "Who is that man who is leading? What bloody man is that? He can report." Malcolm, his son, he says, "This is a sergeant who, like a good and hardy soldier, fought against my captivity." Malcolm, his son, elder son, Malcolm, addresses the King Duncan and he says that this is the sergeant, ex-sergeant, and he fought bravely to make me free. Mean that Malcolm was caught or was covered or was, we can say that the enemy army overpowered the Malcolm, or he was captured by them. So that sergeant fought for his freedom, for to get him free from their captivity, and he brought the Malcolm there. So he said that the Malcolm addressed about this, that sergeant is a very brave man and he has fought for his freedom or for against the captivity of Malcolm. So dear student, you see here that the war is going on and the King Duncan, his son, are there in a camp. And these opening lines of this scene show that how important was the Macbeth, how brave, courageous, and powerful, or we can say that who held all the powers, that was the Macbeth. And the king who should be at the battlefield, his son who should be at the battlefield, they are at camp. And the Malcolm himself, the elder son of the king, was also captured by them and he was made free by a sergeant. So this opening scene heightens the importance, heightens the bravery, heightens the valor of that valor nature of that Macbeth. And the king and his sons are somewhere lacking the bravery, lacking the courage, lacking the power in the comparison of Macbeth. Then we move further. Act first this is act second. Let me open these lines. And then say to the king's knowledge of the broil as you did leave it. Then the Malcolm addresses that sergeant and says that you tell about the fighting, about the war to the king. And the sergeant start to speak. Doubtful it stood as to spent swimmers that do cling together and choke their art, the merciless MacDonald, worthy to be a rebel, for to that the multiplying villainies of nature do swarm upon him from the western isles of guns and gallows is supplied. Yellow glasses is supplied. he says that journal, our two general, that Macbeth and Banquo, they fought so bravely, and at last they got tired, and they were fighting like the two swimmers who cling to each other and choke their art. I mean, if a swimmer is caught, then he can't perform his uh, art of swimming. And same thing happened with them, that they were so tired, but they were fighting bravely there. And the merciless MacDonald, worthy to be rebel, foreto that the multiplying lineage of nature. And the MacDonald, he is a rebel who rebelled against the king, against the kingdom, and he was as by nature villain, and with weapons and with all soldiers, and he was fighting bravely there. And it seems that he was about to win. Of canes and gallows glasses supplied, and fortune on his damned quarrel smiling, showed like a rebel's war, and that victory was also about to happen in favor of MacDonald. This is the view. This is the scenario which has been viewed by the sergeant, and he is explaining there to the king. Then the victory is like a rebel's war. Dear student, here it is the simile. Rebel's war, I mean rebel, who is the rebel? Rebel is MacDonald, and war is like a prostitute who goes with the power, who goes wherever she gets something, and it appears that victory was also like a war of MacDonald, but all is too big. But all these things, his power, his weapons, and MacDonald's weapons, MacDonald's soldiers, MacDonald's efforts, all became too big. All went in vain when for brave Macbeth, when Macbeth fought bravely with them. And he says that he deserved the name. He says that the Macbeth deserve this name, as the meaning of the Macbeth is to the source of life or something. The meaning is like that, and he says that he deserves the name. And disdain fortune with his brandished steel, which smoked with bloody execution, like valor minion carved out his passage, till he faced the slave. And what did the Macbeth? With bravery, he directly went to the MacDonald. With his sword, he made a passage, and it seems that the soldiers gave him the way to reach to the MacDonald. He was Macbeth was fighting bravely. He was furious, and that alarming death, alarming symbol of the coming death for the soldiers. So they gave him the way, and he reached there to the MacDonald, and which he never shook hands and bade farewell to him. What did the Macbeth there? As soon as he reaches, what did he do? What does he do? Sorry, students. The story can be explained either in the past or either in the present tense. So when you are writing the questions, follow the one tense. If you are using the past, then you describe the term you describe the answer in the past tense, and if you are using the present, then be attached to the present tense. So what does he do? He cut his hat till he unseamed him from the near to the chest, and fixed his head upon our battlements. And he cut the head of the MacDonald, and thus he won against the MacDonald. Who won? Macbeth won. And dear students, the questions may be asked in the examinations that who informed about the war conditions or about the killing of the MacDonald at the battleground, and that is informed by a sergeant. And who killed MacDonald? That Macbeth killed the MacDonald. And then the see next lines, yeah, there. The Duncan's, oh valiant cousin, worthy gentleman. He, King Duncan, expresses his happiness and praises the Macbeth, the gentleman, the worthy Macbeth. And then Sergeant says, as hence the sun, as whence the sun gins his reflection, sheep taking storms and direct for thunder spray. So from that spring, whence comfort seemed to come, discomfort swells. Mark, King of Scotland, mark. No sooner justice had, with valor armed, compelled these skipping Huns to trust their heels. But the Norwegian lord, surveying vantage, with furbished arms and new supplies of men, began a fresh assault. Dear students, here again a change in the condition or in the ongoing battle is shown by the sergeant. He says that when the sun gins his reflection, sheep breaking storms, and direct for thunder spray, when the sun is rising, or we say that the